Almost Shabbat Shalom. Hello, hello. Hello, welcome, welcome. You are seeing it later maybe, but whoever needs to see it is going to watch this. This is specifically for you. Of the third eye ball here, the ball that targets the frequencies of the third eye. Because it's about remembering. It's about remembering today. It's about remembering our divinity, remembering our uniqueness. And we forget that. We forget. And we get confused. We get confused. Okay. Well, hello, welcome being here. So finally, sunny in California again. I closed the window because the sun and the light, and later on maybe I'll flip the camera again so we can see the ocean and relax to the color. So today we are, the portion of today, I want to talk a little bit about that and how does that translate to remembering? How can we look at it in remembering? The portion is portion VaYakhel Pkudei. There are two portions, but VaYakhel. VaYakhel means, and he will gather all the people. God tells Moses, gather all the people, bring all the people. We're going to, after the last portions, we're talking about building not the temple, but the altar that is in the temple. The altar that only the high priest could enter. So now he brings them, and he's bringing them in to talk to them about the temple. One would think, because all the previous portions were about the temple. But he comes and he brings them in and he starts talking to them about observing the Shabbat, observing the Sabbath. And he said, yes, he's coming to tell them to build a temple and what to do with the temple and what to do for the temple and in the temple. But the first thing he's talking about is the Shabbat. And he's saying 6 days you work and then the seventh day you relax. I know the temple is important, but I want you to relax. I want you to relax. I don't want you to do anything on the Shabbat. It's a high thing to do. It's a high cause. It's a divine cause to work on the temple. But even that, I don't want you to work on the Shabbat because that's our sign. And that no working on the Shabbat is a matter of remembrance. What is it? What are we remembering? Is remembering the covenant between God and the Jewish people. But in this case, again, the Torah is not only for the Jews, the Torah is for everybody. So it's a covenant between God and people. Now, how do we look at it in our current day, in our present day? Everyone. We are made out from a streak of light. We are made out of light, right? We are made out of light that went through a lot of generation condensing in order to be in this body. The best analogy, and I love to talk about with analogies, and whoever is watching me knows that. So think about, I was talking exactly about this today. Think about analog tapes, the cassettes. And when you would, in the old days, in the 80s, 70s, 80s, you have the cassette tapes. They weren't very clear. They had the hiss and everything. The more you played it, the lower it got more degraded. And so we call it loss in generation loss. Every time you play it, you're like losing a generation. It's losing its oomph. It's losing its like, right? Unlike CDs, you could play it over and over, and of course, lossless files and audio files today is something different. But I was talking to a couple of young, in the 20s, girls that are working in media and so forth, and I was asking them about analog tapes, and they didn't remember that. They remember just from their dad. So what happens is that there is a generation loss in the quality of the audio. And this is what happens when we don't remember why we're here, or we don't remember what helps us become why we're here. It helps us when we forget what it is that we are here doing. Now, there are different stories about it. When we come here, when we are born, when we come out of the womb, we come out to the world. There are stories. The angel puts a finger and makes us forget and everything, right? And so, but what happens during this time in the womb, the baby? The baby is connected to the source. The baby is still connected to the source. In Kabbalah and Judaism, it said that the baby is learning, is being taught the entire Torah and just the entire behavior, goodness and kindness. Everything is coming down. Everything is channeled. As a matter of fact, I talked about this one time, there is a research that was done with a video about with a small baby, like a 6 months old baby, in the crib. There is a camera. Parents come in, say goodnight to the kid, goodnight to the baby, go out. Then the door opens after a few minutes, and the 5-year-old brother comes in, goes to the crib, talks to the baby, and says, "Please help me remember God because I'm forgetting. I'm starting to forget." And this is fascinating because this is showing how we are connected from very young age. But what happens is that we have filters that are covering and masking our vision over time, over a year, our experiences, disappointments, people that are supposed to protect us are not protecting us, people that we think are for us are not for us, all kind of experiences, traumas. These experiences are causing the child to develop this anti the other person, or any other person, because any other person is a representation of somebody who is outside of that baby that potentially could harm the baby or the child. And so eventually there is a resistance, and these resistances are creating our frequency, and these resistance are creating filters in our eyes, and are clouding our judgment, and are clouding our decision-making process, and clouding our decisions themselves. So when we come to adulthood and we are facing with challenges, especially challenges that are uprooting everything and flipping everything upside down, almost like French cars, like Citroen, the engine is upside down, everything is upside down. The carburetor is here, the engine is down, and everything flipping upside down, and we're like, what happened? It's like a vertigo type of thing. And then we start scattering, and we're starting to look, and we're starting to find, and we're starting to make sense of everything. So God is reminding us to remember the important, remember the divinity, remember our power not over somebody else, but remember our power that allows us to create, that allows us to be. The world was created in 10 utterances. So what is our divine power? Our speech. Our divine power is our speech. And this is what I want to emphasize, to remember our divine power, to remember our divine gifts that begin and end with a speech. The fifth Hebrew letter is Hey. This is how we pronounce it, Hey. And this is the feminine letter. Hey, anything in Hebrew that ends with a hey is usually a feminine. And it's also the letter of life and passing on, because we come into life, or when we wake, we come into, and then when we leave, we are, right? So So we remember our power of speech, and our power of speech is in our letters, in our words, in our intentions. And when we remember our purpose, when we remember anything, or when we want to manifest anything, it starts with our imagination first. First to imagine. This is to ask, how do I manifest? Well, I mean, I doing workshops on manifestations. How do you manifest? What do you? One step at a time, like a baby, right? One step at a time. So the first step in manifestation of remembering what our purpose is, and from there to manifest. Our first step in manifestation is the imagination. Let's imagine. So if you're doing meditation, when you sit and meditate, I want you to imagine. Imagine what if. To start with the story, imagine what if. And to imagine the story, to visualize the story. To visualize the story, to visualize how does it look like when I'm already there. There could be a career that I want to do, or something that I want to achieve, or a person that I want to meet. How does it feel already to be there? Working on a project, you want to see this project. How does it feel? Imagination is the first step for manifestation. So imagining. Now let's bring in all the other senses. So we're visualizing with our eyes while we're eyes closed. You can also have it when your eyes are open. Sometimes you can look at I will look at a certain point on the ceiling, and I can something that is static, and I can focus, and I could bring an image to my front without closing the eyes. But when we meditate, we close our eyes and we are imagining. You want to be on the stage. Imagine you are on the stage. How does it smell like? Can you imagine the smell? Can you imagine the scent? The scent of each one of us is the scent of our soul. Can you imagine the scent? Can you imagine how does it look like? Who do you see in the audience? Who do you see in the audience that came to see you? Who do you see next to you? What are you wearing? How do you feel at that moment? So the first step is the imagination. I want you to take, it could be 5 minutes, it could be 10 minutes. But the more you're imagining what you're doing, you are creating a vibration. You're creating a vibration because everything is a frequency. Even our thoughts are frequencies. So you create a vibration. You create a vibration in that direction. It's the same way of why it is not good to say anything about another person, negative or positive, but especially negative. Why? Also, if the person is not near us. Because I'm creating a vibration. Negative thoughts about somebody or something, or creating negative vibration. I'm creating a ripple effect. Right? So you imagine the positive. When you start to imagine and you are seeing the picture, you are already inside the situation. Now, it is not, it could be something that will come tomorrow. It could be something about in a week, in a year. I've had it where it would come in a week or 2 weeks, or meeting a certain people, or engaged in certain situations, or be in certain places. Could be a week, could be a month. It's really how are you focusing it? And then there are other steps. So for the other steps, this will be in the workshop. So this is the first step. So first step is to imagine. Imagination. Imagination is the beginning, the first step. So what are we imagining? What are we doing with this actually? What we're doing with this, we're actually remembering our power, remembering our divinity. Then the words, expressions coming out of our mouth, the intentions behind the words. This is something that I can talk. I will talk about it in the workshop that I'm putting together, and we'll discuss that. But the first step is manifestation, is imagination. And I would love to hear from you about this. If you're doing this, I would love to hear what is coming up to you. What is coming up for you? So remember your divinity. Now, what's the point of remember? Okay, I remembered. Okay, all right, now I remember. So now what? I remember my power, I remember my divinity. Okay. What is God saying in the portion? Also, if it is important to build the Mishkan, The altar, I don't want you to do work in Shabbat because I want you to remember me. Right? I want you to remember God. I want you to remember me. So what are we doing with this? We're doing this when we are coming to a decision. Imagine you are in a certain position of making a choice. You have choices to make. Are you making the choices from an authentic place? An authentic place for you? An authentic place? Or is it a place that is influenced by somebody else or a certain situation? What place within you do you inhabit when you make a choice or when you want to manifest? Can you manifest from a place that is not authentic to you? Maybe. Well, if you've seen the movie The Fly, many things can come out if you don't have the right intention or you have interference in the force. The interference in the force can create a lot of unwanted results. So remember, to make a choice. So when I'm in a junction, what place do I inhabit when I make the choice to go here or here, or maybe not to go? Maybe that is. But is this choice influenced by outside, or is it influenced by inside? Now, we're influenced by the outside all the time. Where if we're conscious all the time, we can work and say, okay, I'm not influenced, but things come into us. Things come into our head. Things come into our heart. There's a portion that is talking about to be heart smart in this portion. Heart smart. What is a heart smart? One would say, what do you mean heart smart? Smart, knowledge, wisdom has to do with the head. Where is the heart? The heart is the heart smart. Is to put the heart, the kindness, the goodness, but then to do the best thing for what I'm here to do, what I'm here to serve. But it's to remember this kindness, goodness. So this is a harmony. This is a balance between all actions, between my head. Because if I'm only with my head and going in my head, I can go up to my head and explodes, right? And things that can come out are sometimes not nice because it's all in the head. I mean, look at what's going on in the world. Everything comes from the head, from the fear, from the control, from the egomaniacs, from all this kind of stuff that is derailing everything. But again, if everything has a spiritual reason and cause, that's probably intentional at some point. They are just the messengers, right? Amen. So we are remembering our power. Why? So we make choices that are good for us from a place, because people will come and will tell you what to do, how to do. Oh, if you're doing this, this is not good. You should come back here. You should come do this. When you let all that noise evaporate, what is remaining? Remaining you, remaining us, remaining our divine power. So it doesn't matter what comes to you. During the week, you meet people, you do all kinds of things. That's fine. But in the Shabbat, or us, the divine, the creation, I mean, everything is creation, but I'm talking about us, about the humans, is to remember where I'm coming from and what is my constitution, right? And again, it's about unpacking all these layers that we have all these years, unpacking all these disappointments and all these things that happen over time, to let them go so I can finally hear myself. So remember your power, remember your divinity. Imagination, that's where everything begins, really. Now, are you positive, negative? What kind of imagination are you inviting? What kind of creation? As Mr. Rogers used to say, what do you create in the garden of your mind? What do we plant? What do we put in? So, Shabbat Shalom. It is sunny in La La Land. It is beautiful. I'm going to show you a little bit. We had so much rain. I felt like I'm back in Boston. Okay. Well, let me open this here so you can see. There you go. Getting you out here. Look at that. Wonderful Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom.